All right, folks, I think we are about to go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome to the R1 2022 webinar. I'm going to be almost looking right into your faces, but what I'm actually doing is making sure that I can start sharing my screen for everybody. So we should see that pop up in a second now. So everybody has that in front of them. Let me move just some things around. Hi, everybody. How's it going? So my name is Carl Bergenhem, and I'm the product manager for Kendo UI, and I'm joined today by Alyssa and Kathryn, and we're going to be jumping into what's new in all the Kendo UI products today. So that's quite a lot that we have to cover. So I'm going to go ahead and get started right away. So first, just some housekeeping items. Before we go ahead and get started, I'm going to take about 5 minutes of your time or so just to dive into all these sweet details. But everything that we're covering today is also going to be available on the What's New pages that we have for all the Kendo UI products. So I took a quick screenshot of what that looks like. So you can see there's a ton of updates happening with this release, and you can dive into each individual Kendo UI products, whether it's Vue, jQuery, Angular, or React, and take a look at what's new, with also links to all the demos and everything else that we have covered for what's new today. Also, because I know this is the first question that always pops up, is, are we recording today's session? Yes, we are. So you can actually find this webinar alongside with other webinars and a ton of other videos that we do throughout the year. We have quite a lot of content that's happening constantly every single week, and it's all uploaded to the Kendo UI YouTube channel. So you can go ahead and, if there's anything that you missed or you're not able to join for the full thing, you'll be able to catch the recording there. And for those that need the link, here you go. It's just youtube.com/KendoUITV. I'll leave that up just for a second. And we're not only are we going to be, of course, going through all the content that we have today, but we have a whole host of lovely folks that are helping us answer questions in chat. So if you have any questions about anything that we're covering, feel free to type that in a little chat window that you have on your right-hand side, and you'll be able to have your questions answered. We're also monitoring Twitter. So if you use the hashtag #HeyKendoUI, we will be able to answer questions as we go along on Twitter as well. And of course, if we miss any questions during the webinar, we'll be able to jump in and help answer them afterwards as well. So if you prefer Twitter over the little chat window that you have there, feel free to use that. Now, as I mentioned, we have a lot of video content that we produce throughout the year, and we actually, for some of you might have seen this, we're on Twitch quite a lot as well. So Alyssa, Kathryn, and sometimes they have guest hosts like myself join in on twitch.tv/codeit live, where we do a lot of deep dives into engineering and a lot of other topics, and there's a tons of interactivity. So this webinar format, it's more us presenting information to you, and then of course we have the chat window to help out. But on Code It Live, it's a little bit, potentially more engaging as well, and you don't necessarily have to wait for the release. You can join in. I think we're streaming almost every single day of the week, so you'll be able to find a topic that you enjoy and be able to dive into and really be a part of the community as well. Now, just as some quick highlights for what we're going to cover today, there is quite a lot. Actually, if we show Angular, React, jQuery, and Vue here, you can see that almost all of them end with "and more." I could not fit more content on this screen. So we have a jam-packed session to go through today. So I'm not going to bore you too much with doing a high-level look here, because Alyssa's about to kick things off for Angular, and then we'll dive into React, jQuery, and Vue, so kind of have this order of operations today. Now, one thing that I do want to mention that you'll probably see across all of the products, so this is kind of an announcement and update for all the products, is that with R1 2022, we have new theme rendering options that have been introduced to all Kendo UI flavors. So for those of you that aren't familiar, Kendo UI actually shares theming and rendering across each individual flavor, even though we have built it from the ground up and natively for each platform. And with R1 2022, we're starting this journey of updating and adding theme rendering options across all of our components. So specifically with R1, we addressed any buttons, inputs, data inputs, or dropdowns, so either within those packages or in those categories within our docs and demos that you of course might be familiar with. And these rendering options, just to give you an idea, they include options like theme color, fill mode, size, shape, and rounded. So the idea of these options is that we can offer them on a component by component basis. You can also set them globally. But what we're trying to do is essentially offer you more options to customize and modify the themes that we have out of the box with Kendo UI and be able to really make them your own and potentially build your own design language, or at least ensure that what you are building can fit any design that your design team has provided you with. So as I mentioned, this is happening with R1, it's going to happen in future releases. There may be some breaking changes. We are aware that there are some growing pains here. So I just want to cover this in the webinar now, of course, to address that. So you are aware, we do recommend a little bit of extra timing for testing. But so far, a lot of our internal tests, of course, a lot of customers have already updated, report no problems. So it's more of a heads up just to be safe. And as I mentioned, we'll continue to do this throughout the year. So you'll have more to come in R2 and R3. So you'll see more news about that as we go along throughout the year. But all right, now we have a lot to cover, like I mentioned. So I just wanted to throw up a quick agenda slide here. So if I've done my job correctly, we're about at 5-minute mark. So we'll hand that over to Alyssa to cover Angular. We'll do that for about 40 minutes. Then it's time for React, then jQuery, and then Vue. So just keep this in mind as you go throughout the webinar. If you're interested in one product more than another, you kind of get the rough time frame here. And this is all, by the way, in Eastern Standard Time. So unfortunately, I can't translate that for everybody, but we started at 11. So just keep that as a reference as we go throughout the sessions here. But with that being said, Alyssa, let's go ahead and jump into what's new in Kendo UI for Angular.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to share my screen. I almost handed it over to Ivana. Poor Ivana would have been like, why? Why me? All right, I'm going to go full screen on this, and then hopefully you can see all the bits. So as he mentioned, we had about a 5-minute intro and outro planned. And then this is might help you a little bit more with the time chunking, because I know we are all over the world right now. So let's jump into our R1 2022 updates. For those of you who have not met me, my name is Alyssa Nicoll. I am the Angular representative here at Progress for Kendo UI. And so you can DM me. My DM is always open if you have questions. And then, of course, our Kendo UI channel with the hashtag #HeyKendoUI for any burning things you'd like the dev team to answer today. They are watching for that hashtag. And as Carl mentioned, we do lots of live streams on Code It Live. I have 2 that are going on the reg right now. I've got JavaScript Girl in a .NET World on Tuesdays, where I'm diving into the really cool world of .NET. So if you are a JavaScripter like me, who has done some .NET things or wants to get into it, it's been a really fun show. I've got a lot of cool guests, and it's been awesome. And then I also do UI Mondays with Kathryn, my co-host and partner in crime, at 2 p.m. ET on Mondays, where we talk about anything related to tangentially UI. Nothing is off the table. So it's been really cool. So tune in. Hope to see you there. A little Code It Live chicken mascot. But yes, it is twitch.tv/CodeItLive. And this, I think, is my question. And I want you all to use the chat, get your chat fingers ready. Did you come by our live stream? We had last week a bunch of different live streams for each flavor of release on Twitch, and we're just curious how many of you were there, got taught by. So just let us know in the chat. We want to hear from you if you found those useful, if you want to see other kinds of content, if you even knew about it, because I know last time when I asked this question last year, at the end of last year, many people didn't even know that we were on Twitch. So let us know if you had a chance to stop by. And I have some bit.lys throughout, because I know our links can be a bit lengthy. Links can be lengthy. That's a tongue twister. So we have a post that does outline all of the details. So if you want to follow along and have links at the ready, check out that bit.ly. And I'm going to go ahead and dive in to our highlights. So we have 5 new components and so many new features on existing components. And so I am looking at the time, because I want to try to keep us on pace so that we can get to React, jQuery, and Vue. But if something isn't covered in the detail that you would like, or if you have a question maybe about a component that's not in this list, but you're wondering, our dev team really is in the chat waiting for your interesting questions, so throw them out. The first one is the barcode, the Kendo UI barcode. Of course, it just renders a variety of one-dimensional industry barcodes. I have, for our 5 new components, I put the little QR codes, which I thought was apt. So you can go ahead and scan your screen right now if you want to go to the link that is listed below to check out the docs on our barcodes, learn more about implementing it and the features that it comes with. It's very beautiful. And the bit.ly, of course. So underneath the barcode, we have, you'll notice if you npm install it, you install not only the barcodes, but another new component that we have, the QR code. So in our docs, underneath the /component/barcodes, you'll find both the barcodes and the QR codes. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up that bit.ly so you can see that as well. So this new component, it comes with built-in support for encoding, error correction, and you can even put like a custom overlay so you can have like a little image in the middle of your QR code, similar to how the Chrome little dinosaur, how they did that with theirs. So it's very, very cool stuff. Really excited about this, and it even supports the Swiss QR code. So. I know I'm flying. I'm really worried. Last time I had a certain number of slides and I fit it perfectly within 40 minutes, and we definitely went over that amount of info to cover. So forgive me for my speed. I'm just trying to make sure we fit all of the components in today. We also have a filter component, our 3rd new component this release. And this one's really, really cool and really powerful. And I'm actually excited to work with this one in the future to build out demos for, and let me pull up the bit.ly as well, for how to integrate it with many of our components. And I actually wanted Carl to speak to this a little bit, because the filter component is super powerful. It's like a mega search / regex building engine thing to like parse data, any of your data, right? So it can be into one of our other components like the grid, or it can be just a table that you have or other things. So I thought this was really, really cool. Carl, do you know, do the other flavors like React and Vue and jQuery, do they all have filter? Is this new for the suite?
Yeah, so this is actually something that with this release, we have the filter component available in all the Kendo UI suites as a native component.
Nice.
Built for each one. So this is we actually added this into some of the libraries with the last release. jQuery's actually had it for some time, but both Vue and Angular got it with R1 2022. And like you mentioned, Alyssa, it's a great UI component, not just to integrate, of course, with our components, like a very natural one is the data grid, but you can now offer this very intricate way to create complex filter expressions, but with a user experience that's very intuitive by interacting with these buttons, being able to delete, add, or even modify in terms of the hierarchy where things are, if it's an and, if it's an or. It's all very intuitive, and for a developer perspective, you now get this great way to be able to filter down data, maybe make your data requests a little bit smaller, right? So you're not just pulling all the data on the server and then trying to load that into the client.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to play around with this filter and plug it into different components and see just how powerful it is. I told this on the release stream that we did on Twitch, but this story about how my husband actually worked for a company that the people at the company would have to write their own regexes, and these were non-developers, so that they could get data back for these massive hotels and then be able to send it off to their clients. And so it was intense. Like they were taking regex courses as non-developers just to be able to do this. And so something like this component where it's giving you that power, I think is really, really cool. And I'm super excited about the filter. So check it out, scan that link to see it in the docs or type in the bit.ly. Our 4th one is the glorious Popover. It represents rich content. It's very similar to a tooltip, but it actually has even more real estate for content. Like in this screenshot you can see here over the calendar where it's highlighting the events. And it's not just whenever I first saw it, I was like, oh, it's a calendar popover. No, it's for anything. You can add it to buttons, you can add it to other Kendo components, or you can just add it to your own solo elements in the DOM. But yes, the popover is beautiful and glorious and very, very cool. And our final brand new component is the FlatColorPicker. It enables you, it's very similar to our existing ColorPicker. There's the bit.ly for him. But with the exception of it is not collapsed. And so I think that's what the name implies, of it's not hidden behind any sort of click on something to open it. It is non-collapsed, our FlatColorPicker. It does act very similarly to our other color picker. And we've actually, as Carl was mentioning, there's been quite a few theme updates, and we'll touch on that in a second when we get to the features. But our color picker was actually upgraded as well. So they both have this same look, feel, features, functionality. One is just flat on the page for users to see, and one is collapsed, and you click into it and it opens up further. So we'll see that one in a minute. But I think it is time for our first poll. I'm actually going to open the screen. I think one of our friends behind the scene, perhaps Cindy, will start our poll off. I'm probably sharing the wrong one. Let me know if the poll's going. I'm trying to pull up a different screen so I can see it.
Oh yeah, it is live right now. So the question is, how familiar are you with the Kendo UI kits for Figma? And then we have a couple of different options here. So I know about them and use them. I know about them and plan to use them. I know about the kits, but I don't have a case for them, or I didn't know about them until now. Maybe there's some new information being shared just through the poll here. So feel free to answer away. I do see that a lot of folks are answering as we go here. And I do see a question asking if what is Figma? You know, is it like a fig Newton? And that's a very good question. That one got me giggling a little bit.
I love it.
Yeah, that's a great question.
I think we should have Kathryn answer it. Kathryn, are you there? You are like you have most recently had the most like IRL Figma experience. Tell us, what is Figma?
So Figma, unfortunately, is not a delicious snack. It is a UI design software tool. So especially for folks doing user interface design, it allows you to prototype and do layouts and interactivity for all your components or full pages or application design, really flexible. But we have some really great Figma kits that correspond directly with all of our Kendo components. So you can see and edit the design, and then if you use it in partner with our Unite UX plugin and software, you can export stuff directly from Figma and pull the code straight into your application, making theming a complete breeze. So super powerful.
Nice. Okay, so it says attendees are viewing the poll results. 71% I didn't know about them until now. Nice. I like when we get to share new knowledge. You should definitely check them out. It says 15% I know about the kits, but don't have, and I can't read the rest. Where did it go? It's somewhere. It's very tiny on my screen.
Yeah. And then 12% I know about them and plan to use them, and then 5% of folks are actively using them now. So that's fun to see. They are relatively new, you know, so it's always fun to be able to drop something new in front of folks. But for those that aren't looking for them to be fig Newtons, the Figma kits are certainly very, very useful for folks who are looking to kind of have some designs ahead of time and working with our components.
Yeah, fig Newtons or figments of their imagination, as somebody else put in the questions. That I thought was
someone's on the roll in there with the puns. Loving it.
Oh, you're bringing me so much joy. Someone is asking, are Figma kits available for Adobe XD or Sketch? I don't know. I don't know how those integrations work. Does anybody?
I do know.
Here?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
We're focused on Figma right now. So the answer, unfortunately, is no. We're kind of looking into that and keeping an eye on user percentage. But right now we're seeing most of our Kendo folks are in on Figma, so we're focused where they're focused. And for right now, that's Figma.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, let's see. Am I sharing? I think I am. Awesome. So we covered the 5 new components: barcode, QR code, filter, popover, and FlatColorPicker. And we've also talked about Figma just now, Kendo UI Kit, Figma v1.7. If something similar to the question in chat, if you perhaps prefer something in Sketch, let's say, it's definitely something our team wants to hear, and our feedback portal is the place for that. And if we hear enough of it, that's when we start making a push for it. So your voice is definitely important, and we want to hear that. So yes, with this release, we do have Angular 13 support. My demo app, which I highly doubt, I'm double time checking myself, highly doubt we'll have time to show. I can always pull it up though, is up to 13 now, and it does have these new glorious components alive and working in it. So I'll go ahead and share that out at the end if we have time. But we are Angular 13 support ready, and hopefully, I know it can be painful. I know I spent some time wrestling dependencies recently, so hopefully you and your team can be upgrading soon too. But yes, let's dive into the new features that I could barely fit into this square. Thank you, dev team who's watching. Seriously, so many goodies. Carl mentioned this, and I wanted to just kind of highlight it because I'm really so excited. There's a lot to the new themes and to this upgrading. I know you see like the old versus new, but it's not just this like glance at everything to kind of bring it all up to speed together. But it's also kind of creating this really cool API with these options like theme, color, fill mode, size, shape, rounded, that are now all, as of right now, available on buttons, inputs, date inputs, and drop-down packages. So that's a ton of components that now have all of those options, and you should very actively be seeing across the board in 2022, maybe a little bit in 2023. And it's weird to say 2023, by the way. This just feels weird in the mouth. I think one day we'll look back to our children and be like, remember the 20s? No, that'll be weird. So, but no, I'm really excited about the work that the team is doing with around themes and the components. Yes, I put that bit.ly in there. That will take you to an article, I believe Carl wrote it, that goes into detail on the work that is being done and what that means for you. So definitely check that out if that's something you're interested in. All charts got updated colors and designs. And like I said, it's bringing like a better fit to like the Kendo UI components across the board. And so you can see on the left, the old chart, and then on the right, the new one with the updated colors. And I do have that QR code you can scan to check out the docs or this bit.ly. If you want, that bit.ly is actually to docs that talk about specifically preserving the way your charts used to look. So if you're like, wait a minute, I really, really need that yellow line. You know what I mean? Like that we were depending on that. If there's something about the old look that you really need, there are ways to do that. So check out that bit.ly. Boop, 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 boop. I'm excited about this one. Improved pan and zoom. Oh yeah, this GIF, hopefully it's playing. Yeah, it's playing. So we have really, really improved the usability. You could always pan and zoom, but the team just kind of did a rehaul of this, and now it's much smoother using the mouse wheel to pan and zoom. It's also consistent in both directions. And I wish I had time to like pull it up because I was playing with it like a goofball ahead of time, and it's very smooth. It's very, very interactive. I like it a lot. Check out the charts/pan and zoom docs if you want to play with it yourself. But I believe the only thing you have to do, and Carl, you can correct me if I'm wrong, to get this is just use the latest. I don't think there's any special flag or attribute that you have to set. I think you just have to have the latest charts.
Yeah, all under the hood, all improvement just by updating, and you can take advantage of it. So nice and easy, this feature.
Love it. I love it. The next feature, our grid has the team built out a live updating grid example, and I want to get it to where the GIF is actually playing, so there it goes. And so this feature has been possible, obviously, before in the past, but it's always so incredibly powerful and helpful when you can see how our components are interacting with a specific example in Angular. And so I really like this one. That's the bit.ly to go and check it out yourself. And you can also fork it on Stacklets and play with it to use it for your own things. But I really like this live updating data example in the grid that the team made.
And by
Check
the
it
way,
out.
I should mention, while yes, there's some crypto listed here, it's not live up to date 100%, you know, with the active trading that's happening currently. So please don't do any investment based on what you see in this live updating demo.
I thought you were telling people don't stress out. This is a GIF of what used to be. It's not actually.
Yes, but yeah,
this is not a live feed.
Yeah, the exact live feed, so you can't necessarily track Bitcoin exactly through the demo. It is updating relatively accurately, but you know, don't do any last minute buying or selling based on this demo, please.
I love it. I love it. No, seriously, those demos are so powerful, and I'm so glad that we have a team that just takes the time to build those out for our users. I really love them, and they show off our components. And it's one thing to have API documentation; it's another one to see it like living and breathing. So I'm really grateful for that. The next update was our Gantt. Got a selection update, components /Gantt/selection. If you want to see, you can actually see in the screenshot where they are, like the rows are being selected. And let's see, with tasks. Oh, and kind of slipped that one under the covers there. The Gantt is out of beta. Yeah, she is in RTM. We've had her for, say, two releases now, maybe? It feels like two. In my heart, it was 2 releases, but maybe it was only 1. But it is now out of beta fully, and there are a couple of updates that came with that. One was the selection. The other one is editing. You now have 2 ways of editing. The first way is with this tree list portion of the UI component. You can actually just click into the individual cells and edit right there in line. The second way is you can configure a dialog window to pop up whenever it's selected. But either way, you're getting it edited. And yes, there is a bit.ly right there to take you to those docs. Very cool, powerful feature. And I think this next one is Gantt related as well. The creation of dependencies. This was a lot of fun to play with, and I enjoyed like learning about it on the live stream with Carl. Which those videos are available, I believe, on both our Twitch and our YouTube. Someone can correct me if I'm completely invalid in that statement. But we talked a lot about the Gantt, and even, you know, who uses the Gantt, why this is even useful. Because for someone like me, I had never used a Gantt before, and I was like, you need to create dependencies. And so Carl did some explaining on how you can link them up, and now there's this new drag and drop feature. It was really cool. And of course, with any of our components that come out of beta and they're official, right? They're real components. They have full accessibility support with Section 508 and YARIA and just all of it. So check out, I made the QR code really big this time, like you can't miss it. Scan that with your phone and you can read all about how our Kendo UI for Angular components hit accessibility standards and what we're doing on that front. And we always know there's no course or certification or there's no one true test with accessibility. We're always growing and learning. And so we really do want to hear your feedback. If there's something accessibility-wise that a specific component or feature of a component is not hitting, we want to hear from you. So I'll have a feedback portal link at the end, but we always are learning and growing and wanting to do better. So yeah, it's the editor. Moving on, the editor got quite a few new bits. I had a lot of fun playing with it. And so the editor exposes this selection text field, which contains the currently selected text, and you can do with that what you will. I'm really excited about that one. That was a lot of fun. I want to see, yeah, I do have a bit.ly ready for that one. There it goes. Yes, and we've added a new property to help extract the current selected text, which of course is that selection text field. And that editor/selection should take you to those docs. And then I want to go to the next feature on the editor, the select all and print tools. They are, let's see, there we go. So the select all tool, of course, is letting you grab everything, whereas the print tool is letting you actually open the browser's built-in printer dialog from the text editor. So I had some fun playing with our editor, especially since it had a lot of new updates. I think there's this one, yes, I wanted to show this one. There's a couple of resizing updates as well. You can resize images in the editor. Is she playing? There she goes. I was like, why is she not playing? She does not like you. Okay. You can resize images within the editor, and I think I have a little code blump. It's a code blump. There you go. See our Kendo editor right there with the resizable being set. And if you see this one, the other resizing is the editor itself. Is now you can set it to be resizable, and then you can also set, but I don't want you to get past this minimum width or this maximum height, because people will be breaking the UI, right? Like, let's get real honest, we don't want them to have that much power, but it is now settable, resizable. All right, I'm looking at the time. We have, I think we've got 10-ish minutes, I think I have 10 minutes. I'm gonna say we have 10 minutes until proven otherwise. Our editor also has a table split and merge cells. So these options are exposed through buttons within the toolbar, as you can see in the screenshot of the component. And again, our editor got a ton of love. So check out editor/tools if you want to check out the table split and merge cell tools. And this one is applying commands to words. This is my favorite feature. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. I know I'm probably not supposed to have favorite features, but this was my favorite feature. You can see the GIF I made where you can now set apply to word true, and instead of needing to highlight text or things in the text editor, you can just put your cursor in the middle of that item in order to activate it. I think I'm always going to have this true when I use the text editor from here on out, but it is an option, right? I believe, Carl, it's off by default. Is that right? I think so. So I think you have to enable it if you want it.
To be, what we've had kind of as a default for now, and depending on who you talk to, this behavior isn't necessarily the most intuitive. So it's a configuration option that you can enable for those that need it. It's a huge quality of life.
It's not intuitive. To me, I'm like, oh yeah, this is how I want life to work. Dang it.
Yeah.
Of course, I picked the background.
There's always someone on the other side of the coin, right? So we rather than necessarily force this across the board, it's an option that you can enable now.
Okay. Coffee is delicious. You should tell me what you're drinking in the chat. I can't see chat right now, but as soon as Kathryn takes over, I will read your beautiful comments. And I know that Dev Team and other supporters are answering questions right now, but just want you all to know I'm not ignoring you. If you're talking directly to me, I'll be there in a minute. Keynote kind of is a screen hog. I don't know if you all know this. She's like, really aggressive. Okay. The scheduler got a current time marker. I bet you don't know what time and day I took this screenshot at. When I took this screenshot, I was like, oh, that's kind of a dead giveaway when I made this slide, but oh well, it's fine. I guess I could lie. I could be like, I could tell the browser that's not really what day it is. To improve viewing and understanding of events, we thought it would be helpful to have this current time marker. So as you can see down there by 7, it has that line. And so it's very nifty. It's very cool. If you go check out the docs in that link, that green link there, it will show you the current time and date of where you are, or at least where your browser believes you are. The scheduler also got slot selection, which I put this little tidbit here because I know slots might not be a term that everyone's familiar with. So it's an element that represents time increments by 30-minute default to 30-minute chunks. But you can see in the GIF the selecting of slots here. And so users can now select not only events, but slots as well. Yay. Check out the slot selection portion of our docs under the scheduler. This next one I bundled into two. So like, please forgive me if it's super confusing. I'll try to walk you through this. Essentially, both the dialog and the window got these updates. And so I was like, oh, I'll be like super nifty and I'll put it all in one. But maybe that's really confusing now. So forgive me if it's confusing. But I have the link to both /component/dialogs for the dialog service portion of our docs, and then also for the window service portion of our docs. But we have custom CSS classes and attributes when opened via a service, and we have right to left support when opened via service. So Carl, did I make a mistake in bundling these two buddies? Are there any like, that's not true for this one, as far as, because I was wondering, as far as I know the dialog, it can be done through the HTML attributes property.
Mm-hmm.
That's true for window as well, right? Like
yes.
These are both.
Yeah, so you did a great job with adding the two together, because it really is, you know, a dialog, a window, they're similar in terms of user experience, right? There is, of course, a difference when you might just want to have a dialog versus a full-blown window, but they share some commonality. And one of those things happen to be that specifically when you're using an Angular service in order to be able to create and display the window, and we wanted to give these additional options, since that's a little bit of a different use case than maybe a traditional component where you just add it into your template and you're good to go. So we have the custom CSS classes, the additional HTML attributes that you might want to add in, as well as the ability to, of course, render this in a right to left mode as well when using an Angular service for either the dialog or the window.
Very cool. I'm glad I did not mess up on that one. Let's go to, okay, this guy. I made it really big because I thought to myself, you can never have a GIF too big. Like you can never be too zoomed in on our components. And now I'm wondering if that was a mistake. So forgive me if this is just, you know. Cindy, I think you might be unmuted, or yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Cindy's mic. I think. I'm pretty sure. Anyways, sorry about that. So the switch now supports custom size and long labels, which this was like one of those things that like made my eye twitch, because I kept trying to do this even though it wasn't supported. And then Carl would be like, why do you're quit breaking things? And I'd be like, right, stop breaking things, Alyssa. So I'm so excited about this one. This is probably my number 2 favorite feature. And so obviously we have our basic default states, but you can also put in custom ones and they're now supported. So I can now stop breaking the poor switch. The poor switch's heart. Let's see, I think that, yes, that covers that one. The next one is for our panel bar. I told you, you might be sitting with me and you're like, oh my goodness, the features, when will they won't ever stop. So we'll never be free of the features. The team just kept going. They got an updated design. You can see it just right in our docs underneath layout, and that's the package that PanelBar lives under. Carl, she looks good to me, but it's really hard for me to be like, yes, this thing changed. Do you know what changed specifically? Because I'm like, it looks good. Really cool.
Yeah, it's not a redesign, right? It's an updated design. So it more relates to when you have items in a hierarchy, just to make sure it's a little bit more intuitive to understand, especially if, 2 or 3 levels deep, which item is under which parent item. We made that a little bit more clear. And then we've also updated a little symbol that we use for expanding and collapsing, just to keep that a little bit more consistent. So that's really the updates that have happened. So fairly minor from an end user perspective, you probably won't notice it necessarily, but we just have tried to make things a little bit more clear out of the box.
So was the expand collapse, this is the part that I was confused on, because I'm pretty sure you had, and maybe I just put it in there myself, because I know you had the ability to put something like there. It doesn't even have to be that symbol, but you're saying by default now it has that symbol?
So we just changed the symbol that we use out of the box to just be more in line with our design guidelines. So it's essentially just like a minor icon change out of the box. But yeah, if you want to customize that yourself, you absolutely can.
Oh my goodness, yes. I had at one point, like, I had a pony like sitting down or like a pony standing up, you know, because I had a pony app. Like, I was having so much fun customizing the collapsible icon for some reason on the panel bar. I was like, this is the coolest feature ever. And people are like, what are you wasting your life on? It's fine. It's fine. You can customize it. I will show you how. It is fun. This is the new design that I was talking about earlier that matches. And so for those of you who might be new to our ColorPicker or some of our inputs, this is the collapsing that I was talking about behind a click. And this, our new FlatColorPicker, just is out for the whole world to see, right? And so if you are more concerned about real estate, maybe you're even on a mobile device, definitely just go with the OG ColorPicker. If you have, I know, one time I was working on an app that was for printing custom materials, and the ColorPicker was used often, right? And so that would be a state where, we don't want to collapse that and have them constantly having to open it up. But the new design for the ColorPicker, it not only, makes it beautiful and like brings it up to speed so it matches the FlatColorPicker and some of our other components, but it also adds functionality like preview panes, action buttons, and multiple views. So definitely got a beautiful upgrade and something that's really fun for me because I have this living and breathing demo app as we upgrade, as all these new features roll out and I just upgrade my components. It's like so much fun to just see essentially like the whole app transform and slowly just like, I don't know, it's just the subtle things that get me. Like I'm excited about that, and it just really makes a big difference. The Angular grid, these two also got combined onto a page, but there's two different QR codes to take you to the two different demos. And so you now have pushing and slicing from key collections no longer updates the state. And so Carl, I didn't know if I think you had mentioned this was a request, like that the people wanted this, right? Like we had gotten many people saying, I don't want this anymore. And so do you know about that story? Could you explain a little bit further?
It's more about that we were committing maybe a development sin in the sense that pushing and splicing these key collections would update the state, and that's can be considered a no-no. So we decided that yes, it makes sense to change this behavior out of the box because it is technically correct. It's the expected behavior. So it really only affects probably a smaller portion of folks using the components, but still we want to be correct. And if anything, this could be considered a bug that we have fixed with this release.
Okay. Is it a breaking change per se? Not really. I mean,
depending on how you're using. If you're expecting the state to update when you do pushing and splicing of the key collections, so you're using that behavior, then yes. Or if you're working around that behavior somehow, you might not. You don't need that code anymore. So it can be a breaking change depending on how you implemented it. But I would say for 99% of people using these components, the answer is no.
Okay, I would love to hear in the chat your thoughts on this. I'm almost done with my section, so I'm going to be reading through comments and things, but I want to hear if this was something that you ran into or if you thought was maybe it wasn't a sin, Carl, maybe chaos should reign in the development world. I don't know. Who am I to say? I wanted to bring up I promised for this link because there's multiple things, not only accessibility things, but feature requests, component requests, or maybe just questions on how to implement a component in your application or two of our components together, whatever it may be. We'd love to hear your feedback, and our support team is stellar. They're amazing, and I just would be remiss if I did not mention one more time our Code It Live channel. Me and Kathryn and Carl are there quite often on the reg. We're even thinking, I don't think it's actually a think. I think we are starting maybe like a monthly fantasy stream as well, where we talk about books and video games and we just goof around and have fun. So please come join us. We would love to see you there. I think that's all I have. That is the end of the Angular portion, and we are right on, like we're coming right up on time. Yep, that's my minute hour. I did not get to show you the demo, but again, please check out the videos from the release where I walk through some of the demo code, and you can be expecting, if there's something specific, you know, DM me on Twitter that you want to see us work together towards on Twitch. We can definitely make that happen. But thank you so much, and I think it is Kathryn's turn, I think.
Yes, yeah. So for those of you that are just joining us, so while we're handing over the screen to Kathryn, so we just covered the Angular portion of today's webinar. We will now cover the React portion, so we'll spend about 40 minutes or so covering React. And then after that, we have jQuery, and then we have Vue. So those sections will probably be closer to 20 minutes or so based on how much time that we need to take up there. Just so much to cover in this release, honestly. It's as my friend likes to say, it's absolutely
it was intense.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. There's a lot going on. So yeah, so we're chock full of features. And within every one of the libraries. So.
All right. I'm attempting to show my screen, but I don't think it's happening yet.
Not quite yet.
I did not see it yet.
There we go. Yes, now it kicked over to your slide deck.
We got it? Awesome. Great. Thank you. So welcome, everyone. I'm Kathryn Grayson Nanz. I'm the KendoReact developer advocate. And so I'm here to talk you through all of the updates that happened in KendoReact. And gosh, we have a lot. So much like Alyssa, I'm going to try and blitz through this at the speed of light. So definitely throw questions in the chat or anything. I will try and keep an eye on it, and I'm going to start going. So others have talked about this already, and by others, I just mean Alyssa and Carl. So I'm going to not rehash it too specifically, just to say that the theme rendering updates are really useful. They expose these new things, the theme color, fill mode, size, shape, and rounded. And it makes it a lot easier to do the customization work that you want to do to make KendoReact components look however you want them to look. I have a pretty heavily themed demo application that I showed in the Code It live stream and updated these themes and had almost no issues, like one or two really minor things. The benefits far outweigh any drawbacks. I think it took me like less than half an hour to fix. So very exciting. And I think I saw a question in the chat earlier where someone had asked to explain theming. So I'm going to do that like super quick. So in general, we have a couple of default themes that we have available to you. One I think is actually called default, and then one that kind of matches. We have a couple that match other design systems that you might be using. So that if you're not looking to create something completely from scratch, you can choose one of our beautiful options and go with that. And it makes theming your application super, super easy. If you like to customize
and it
things,
is the same for, I was just going to say it's the same for all our technologies. So like, you know, really Kathryn's components are going to have the same theming options as mine. So.
Yeah, that's a really good call out, is that our themes, anything we're talking about with theming or with the Figma kits is available across all of our component suites. So that's not KendoReact specific, but if you're looking for something to update your theme a little bit, but you don't want to like take the super deep dive, I saw somebody else in the questions call out the theme builder, which is a really good kind of middle ground to like tweak some things, see immediately how it will look, export that theme, drop it into your app, smooth, super easy to use. And then again, we talked about it super briefly, but for those who want to take the deep dive into full customization, maybe you have a design team with an existing design system or language that you want to implement, our Figma kits make that completely accessible to you. And everything in the Figma kits, all of the design tokens, the way everything is named there correlates exactly with our components. So when you export, you get like SAS variables that line up perfectly. It is truly a work of art. I saw someone else ask if we had demoed that anywhere. I've done that once or twice in some Code It Live streams. I think actually Carl and I demoed it during the release stream. So definitely worth taking a peek if that's something that interests you. Really powerful. Jumping into our new components, you'll see a little bit of overlap with Angular, and it's just because the components are that good. I gotta have them everywhere. We also got the FlatColorPicker, which again does all the same stuff it does in Angular. Lets you pick a color, gives you the option between this kind of gradient and the like color squares for you to choose without having to expand in a drop-down first. We also got a really powerful set of drag and drop utilities, which make implementing this kind of functionality super easy. And for those of you that have tried to do drag and drop like completely from scratch, you will know what a pain that is. You were probably, if you had this, using an external library before, and now you don't have to. It's all bundled in with KendoReact, making it super, super easy. We added some hooks, use draggable and use droppable.
Can I have a quick question for Carl on this one? What the heck, Carl? What the heck?
Don't worry.
I'm pretty.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Angular doesn't have this. For those of you who are curious, it's why I'm correct, right? We don't have this cool thing. That's awesome, React. What?
Yeah, not quite yet. Don't worry. There's happening.
So you can use it anywhere. Like you can just be like, I want this to be draggable and droppable, and then you just.
It basically lets you define elements as draggable and as droppable, so that they recognize kind of target zones and let you quickly implement that drag and drop.
It's going to be a really, really scary day for Angular when this hits. I'm going to make everything draggable. That is all. Thank you, Kath.
No. In the meantime, just one more great reason why React is better. I love to throw that in just to upset the crowd. Just see who's listening.
She's gotta get in there jabs. Yeah.
Yeah, just real quick. Similarly, we also got the expansion panel. It's kind of similar to the panel that Alyssa talked about. Ours are not necessarily, it doesn't have to be stacked together in a bar. We do have another component, which I have forgotten the name of, but Carl probably remembers, where all of these are kind of linked together so that you can coordinate like when one opens, another one closes. And that's really useful there. But sometimes you just need one. Sometimes you just need one bar to open and close. And for that, we offer you the expansion panel. It's really nice in that you can put anything in there. A lot of times they limit what you can put into a panel like this, and with us, not so much. I've put other components in here, lots of text, images, whatever. And it's got a really smooth open and close animation, which is something else Carl and I were talking about. Surprisingly difficult to do by hand, to animate something that you don't know the exact height of because you don't know what child elements would be in there. But our team has pulled it off because they're brilliant. So
seriously, sometimes you'll like be in the docs like playing with the demos because they're so smooth. You're just like, oh, I could waste so much time here.
Oh man.
I don't know if you all saw Chris Crawley's question in the chat, but he said, which Kendo UI product has the most users, Angular, React, Vue, or jQuery? And I know we're joking, but I honestly don't know. Carl, I know you probably know, but I feel like we've got they're very competitive, I think.
Can we take guesses?
But there's so many, I mean, even jQuery, honestly, like I feel like we have even, because you might be like, oh, like who's using jQuery? Like a lot of people.
Like
a lot of people.
jQuery or Angular. If I had to guess.
So
I guess jQuery just because it's been around longer. Yeah.
That's probably what you can look at, right, just from a historical perspective, because Kendo UI has been around for a very long time on the jQuery side. But we have a ton of folks using Angular, React, Vue. It's a pretty even spread, honestly, if you take up the historical aspect of jQuery just being around for quite a long while. And still is my go-to framework whenever, or library, I guess, to be technically correct, that I use whenever I need to create something real quick using our components. So, there's
You-
only going to be jQuery love coming out of me. It's, still the
I
best
honestly
software out
feel
there.
like our whole team feels that way. Like even on the .NET side, people are like, yeah, just use jQuery. Like I think if you're building an app right now in jQuery, like you should feel no shame. Like get it, right? Get it.
Oh,
Build that app.
Yeah.
I'm proud of all of you.
Perfect. I love jQuery. Yeah.
Yeah.
But as I love all my children equally. So that's I'm here to make sure we keep the flame war to the minimum.
With jQuery, I think it's less of loving your children and more of respecting your elders. But yes.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, how you want to look at it.
On to more of our new React components. We have a carousel component, also known as a scroll view. You have almost certainly seen one of these before. It gives you the opportunity to scroll through a gallery of photos. That can either be done manually, you can offer your users the arrows or the kind of navigation dots along the bottom, or you can set that to automatically kind of roll through everything in your gallery. It's a really nice option and one that gets requested by clients a lot. I don't know if it's one that developers inherently love, but it sure is one that clients love. And it's a good one to have in your KendoReact toolkit. So we're excited to add it. We also got the Popover, which is kind of like a tooltip turned up to 11, maybe turned up to 15. It's super powerful. With the tooltips previously, you were kind of limited in terms of what you could put in there. They tended to be smaller, just little notices that could, just a pop up like, to give you a little additional information. Not the Popover. The Popover is kind of like a modal that's anchored to a specific spot. So it gives you all of the context that you get with that tooltip of kind of pointing and connecting it directly to something, but all of the power of being able to put whatever you want inside, further interactivity, buttons, other components, whatever you need, you can put it in the Popover. We've got one of the most common examples here with the agenda, being able to not to see an agenda on the calendar. But you can use it in all sorts of ways to provide a little bit of a deep dive into whatever's happening in your components. The barcode, and I'll talk a little bit next about the QR code, are two more great pieces that we got in the R1 release. So the barcode supports, I want to say it's like 18 or 19 different types of barcodes, like super flexible, whatever you need. Comes with
What's
support.
like hilarious about that, Kathryn?
What?
my friend, our friend Sam, he was teaching me on we talk about this Twitch. He was teaching me on Twitch how to put Angular into Maui, like for a desktop app.
Ooh.
Yes, I just said all those words together. And he started using the Kendo UI for Angular barcode component. And you say that we've got like 18 or 19. Somehow, while we're on live stream, the man manages to break it. I was like, oh, can we pass a custom value in there? And he's like, let us try. And you just the whole app blew up. And I was like, man, that was a lot of choices to just not hit any of them. He just didn't. So I guess you really have to know. I personally don't I'm amazed that many types of barcodes exist. So I really feel like I need to study up on barcodes to understand them better. Because when you're saying that, I'm just like, wait, what? Oh my gosh. Okay.
You can.
Carl, do you know all 18 types?
No, I don't know all the 18 types off the top of my head, but that's what we have the documentation for, and also the customer requirements in terms of we need this specific barcode type, and you just go through, add that attribute, and you're good to go.
I was going to say, you can put in a custom value. It just has to align with one of the 19 available barcode syntaxes. So, yeah, limited, but really only a little.
Yeah.
Similarly, we also have the QR code, which will let you generate a bunch of different types, URLs, locations, emails, anything. So you can go ahead and scan, pull those right up. We also have the ability to add that image to the center, which is super good for brands, especially if you want to throw your logo there in the middle, or maybe some kind of indication of what they can expect, like a little email icon if it's going to open an email. It's a great way to give your users a little bit of context and improve their experience by telling them what's going to happen when they scan this mystery link. So always a good thing to do. It does also support advanced QR code types like the Swiss QR code, and it has a certain amount of kind of error compensation built right in. So it's not too picky and will get you where you need to go.
Ooh. Kathryn, do you have,
Exciting.
I know I keep interrupting me. Give me like laser eyes if you are like, we're not going to get through all this content. We have a question about a barcode from Alexander. How different is a barcode from the Xamarin barcode in your suite? Any advantages? Question mark. Oh my goodness. I really want Carl to answer this question. Carl, do you know the .NET side of things? Because I've been wanting so badly to play with our Xamarin stuff. Oh my gosh. Oh.
Yeah, so generally in the barcodes across all of our suites, it tends to be that the main power comes from the different barcode types, right? It's the same thing with the QR code. Once you get down to it, there's only so many different ways you can take a barcode component. But of course, if there are any specific types that might be needed, they could be a little bit different from suite to suite. But I'm not 100% sure what the other differences might be. But generally, when I've looked into the differerences, it just seems to be maybe there's an additional type of barcode that we haven't implemented in one suite versus the other, because there's still the fairly same structure of lines and maybe an underlying value. Same thing with the QR code. Okay. So a long non-answer. Well, not sure, but just with
I feel like you all should definitely tune in to JavaScript Girl and .NET World on Tuesdays, because I am going to start just digging into our Xamarin side of life, and there can be some direct comparisons definitely with like the JavaScript components. So for sure. Great question, Alexander.
All right, and with that, I'm going to move this from our new components into components that got a little bit of an upgrade with this release, which is really exciting. Talked about this a little, so I won't go too far in, but KendoReact also, of course, got the updated colors and designs in our charts. We also, as well, got the pan and zoom, which is, again, so smooth and so fun to play with. Even just creating this GIF was enjoyable. We also have a really big update for our pivot.
She just said GIF.
Oh, is that going to be GIF. Polarizing? Yeah.
I have to slowly walk away.
Oh, I'm sorry. You mean like the creator of the GIF intended it to be pronounced? That's fine. Oh, you want to get into it? You want to go on the webinar? We could go.
I just can't. I can't even. Okay, creators can be wrong. That's all. Goodbye.
Leave me and my graphics interface format alone. So.
I can't. I'm sorry, Chad. I love you all. Back to React.
Can we set up a last minute poll, please?
Oh my gosh, right. So she actually told me, because I was bothering her right before I went live. I was like, Carl, slow down. I'm still typing, to set up another poll. So we actually can't create custom polls on the fly with GoToWebinar, but I really want to hear in the comments. You can tell us. I don't know how you would tell us. Maybe spell it with a J or a G. Yeah, like just tell us what you prefer. I just want to hear. I won't take it personally if you side with Kathryn. I won't. Okay, that is all.
Just remember, choosy developers choose GIF. So, but seriously, not to detract, because this is a really cool improvement to our pivot grid. You no longer have to bind specifically to an OLAP cube. Which is great, because most people that we talked to were not 100% sure what an OLAP cube was. That was a huge barrier. But no, in all sincerity, it gives you the option to bind directly with your own kind of data there, which means you don't need that server-side implementation to use the pivot grid anymore. And that's really great. It gives you guys a little bit more freedom to use this component however it most suits you, your users, your application, because y'all are in the best place to make that decision about what's best. So anytime we can offer you guys more flexibility, more freedom in how you use our components, that's always our goal. We also got some good stuff, data grid improvement. So now you can have multi-column headers when you're using the data grid. We also got some new performance sections in our documentation. So you can see features, tactics for making your data grids super fast and increasing their performance. We have also got live data samples, which again, you saw a little bit with the crypto, a little bit of our like asterisk, do not take investment advice from our documentation pages, something that I never thought I would have to say. And yet here we are, just to be safe, cover all of our bases. KendoReact holds no liability for the crypto choices that you make based on our documentation examples. The editor got a whole suite of great improvements, some of which we saw in the Angular overview, so I won't be too picky, but we've improved how selection is handled to give you more control. We have also added the resizing of the editor itself, which is a really great user experience upgrade, allowing folks to expand the panel when they have a lot to write. So it's good to give them the flexibility they need. Similarly, we also got image resizing with that kind of standard click and drag. We're working to bring the editor in line with user expectations based on the other kind of word processing editors that they are familiar with. So as much as we can kind of close that gap and make it an intuitive experience for them, that's the goal. We've also improved how lists are handled. You can control what type of list should be used when you're creating sub-items within existing lists. You can use alphabetical lists. Again, just kind of helping to bring this up to par so that you really have a full featured editor right in your application. And you don't have to build it. So really win-win. We've also exposed some interfaces for on mount, on execute, on paste, on focus, and on blur, so that you can hook into those user actions and change whatever you like, set triggers, start functions, whatever, when your users interact with the editor. Again, just a way to give you guys a little bit more control. Our React scheduler got an improvement with adaptive slot height. Alyssa already kind of explained the idea of the slots defining a specific portion of time. Is my screen still being shared? Yes, it is. Sorry. GoToWebinar just like flipped and wasn't showing me the preview anymore. So I had a little panic moment that it was possibly just me talking. Which I guess it still is, but anyway.
You are not alone. We are here with you.
Thank you. I am so glad as I absolutely speed through the I think we easily had 20 improvements and new components in the KendoReact release, which is huge, huge, huge. So I think I've got I lost track of time. When did I start? I'm just gonna keep going.
I was actually trying to do time math for you, and I can't. Carl, do you have ideas of math with the 40 plus the 40? And
yeah, you have about 17 or so minutes left to make sure that we stay on track.
All right, we're doing good. Thank you, team. We have also, kind of similarly to that adaptive slot height, the React scheduler feature now has that ability to auto adjust or have a predefined height when your events are displayed. So just improving how things are shown. We also got the design upgrade to the ColorPicker, again, so that both of those are completely in sync. Just little tweaks, always making sure that things look as nice as possible and are as intuitive as possible.
So Andrew was asking, is the adaptive slot height configurable? I believe it is in Angular, so I think it should be in React. Pretty sure. I'm gonna go with yes until someone tells me no, because I think that's the slot height. Because I think it defaults right to someone's gonna have to correct me.
Yeah, I'm not sure, honestly.
I think so.
The answer on that one.
Okay.
But I know for a fact that we have KendoReact devs in the chat that will reply to that question without the question mark at the end of the answer, the way that we do. So, they are super smart, obviously know all of this inside and out, and worked really, really hard.
One day, Kathryn, you and I will know all 100 components inside or out, and then by that day there will be 200. So
that's exactly what I was about to say.
All
Yeah, by the time we've managed the full 100 components, there will be 200 to 300. But that's good. That's a good problem to have. So I'll take it. It's job security, right? No. So with our tile layout, we've added the use of keys that you can associate with individual tiles, which will avoid re-rendering the entire component anytime item collection is changed. So definitely a nice upgrade. Keep things smooth. Here it is. Here's the panel bar, the component name that I couldn't come up with earlier. That's different from the expansion panel.
I was gonna say that, but then I was like, maybe React has some other fancy panel bar type S. I didn't know.
It's still a panel bar over here. I think in general, we really try to make sure names are the same across all of our component suites, so that if you are in a situation where you're using more than one or switching from one to another, it's a really smooth transition for you. So, yeah. So panel bars. We have support now for using that component in controlled mode. We have also added a Boolean option that will allow the content of your class panels to stay mounted, so that you don't necessarily have to like re-render, remount every time a panel is opened or closed, which is really nice. Again, just kind of little performance improvements that all add up to a really snappy application. So we've also got some component improvements, some context for our default props, for our date inputs, and dropdowns. We've added a context provider using react.context. So when you need to customize components that are nested within other components, this is going to help you out. We've got a few new sample projects as well, which is really good. We get those kind of requests all the time to see how to use a component or how to implement a specific component or what we would recommend. So we have added a new full stack app using the data grid and ASP.NET. So you can go check that out. It helps you get an understanding of how to shape those requests and responses, traveling between the data grid and the backend. Good for .NET developers and good for folks working on the front end as well. Win-win. Similarly, we have a full stack app with data grid and Node. So depending on what your stack looks like, we have got a sample app for you. Finally, we have an exciting announcement from one of our other products for those who are interested in building reports, invoices, or adding business intelligence to your React applications. Telerik Reporting has added a React report viewer. So you can check that out, see if that is useful to you, depending on the kind of application that you are building. Might be new. I think I've made it, which is good, because I have just a few things to highlight that are not necessarily release related. Yes, made it. But Alyssa talked a little bit earlier about our Code It Live channel, which is honestly one of my favorite places to hang out, super fun. But we have got a special accessibility event coming up on February 14th on Valentine's Day, where we have 4 super talented speakers coming in to share with us about accessibility topics of all sorts. I know we have someone, I believe, talking about forms and accessibility, which is worth tuning in for that alone, because that is its own difficulty. But as well as kind of the idea of empathy and approaching your application design and development from just an accessible point of view. It's going to be really useful. We've got a full half day of content lined up. Go ahead, Alyssa.
Yeah. I mean, no matter what, I was just saying, no matter what platform you're using or what, kind of stack, I feel like there's anytime I start digging into accessibility, I learn so many new things, and it's constantly changing. And so I'm really, really excited for this event, just to learn and share and empathize and spend Valentine's Day with you all. It'll be good. So come hang out.
Yeah. It is going to be a load of fun. We also have a new show on Monday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern Time called Dev by Design, where we look at design fundamentals geared towards an audience of developers. So if you are looking to level up your design skills, to make your UIs a little bit sharper, or to just increase your communication with your design team, communicate a little bit more effectively, then you should come hang out with us. We have a really good time. We've been talking about color the last couple of weeks. I think we've got a couple more weeks of that, and then we move on to layout and organization, visual hierarchy. It's a good time. So hopefully we will see you there. And thanks for letting me speed run you through all of the KendoReact updates.
Yeah, there really was so much in all the flavors, right? So we covered Angular and React already for those of you that have joined us halfway through the webinar. Now the next couple of products that we'll be covering is Kendo UI for jQuery and then Kendo UI for Vue, and that should have us in the webinar after the Vue portion. Now, if you're new as well and you've just joined and you're wondering, oh, I want to ask a question about this or that, we have a lovely crew of people that are helping us out on the back end of things as we are presenting and chatting away. They're answering all of your questions. So we have some of the developers that actually wrote the features and the components that we're covering today, helping us answer questions along the way. So feel free to continue to use the little chat window to ask any and all questions that you might have. And with that, I'm going to jump into the latest and greatest in Kendo UI for jQuery. So there's quite a lot to cover. If you saw my first initial screen when we covered absolutely everything, there's a lot of new things happening here. One of the biggest things is, of course, the new pivot grid, so pivot grid v2, and then we have the new avatar component, so that's what we have in terms of new components. But then we have so many updates to existing components, right? We have a new sample application, we have the theme rendering options that we've been talking about, grid updates, chart enhancements, the editor got some improvements, drawer, the ColorPicker PanelBar, and also accessibility. So there's a lot to jump into here with the jQuery components. Now, to start off with, we have the new pivot grid, the V2 pivot grid, which you can see a screenshot of over here. And essentially, this is a brand new component that we built from the ground up. We've had a pivot grid for quite some time in Kendo UI for jQuery, but we know there have, of course, like any of our components, are some improvements that we can do across the way. And we've realized that there are some things that we want to do with the pivot grid and some things that you folks have been requesting over the years that really the V1 pivot grid, the pivot grid that we have so far, might not be able to cut the mustard. So what we're going to do is actually, with this release, we have introduced the V2 pivot grid, which has been recreated and actually re-architected from the ground up, that will allow us to be able to add in some of this functionality and also to do a improved user experience across the pivot grid component. So the interesting thing is that these components can live side by side. You can have them actually right in the same application. So we're not necessarily ripping and replacing the pivot grid that you might have today. So you have to explicitly say that you want to use the new pivot grid. And of course, there might be some features that are missing, and we'll slowly but surely be adding those in. And then eventually, when we feel like there has been enough time to be able to phase out one pivot grid, we will be left with just the single pivot grid. But for now, we want to make sure that everybody's comfortable with the features and functionality available and that you have enough time to do any migration. So we'll, of course, announce that, we have the blogs, we have email, we also have these webinars where that kind of announcement will happen. So no need to worry about that quite yet. But definitely feel free to check out the new pivot grid. I personally think the user experience is improved and looks gorgeous for anybody that needs pivoting functionality, and we'll continue to add features to this as we go along throughout the year. Now, the next new component that we added is the avatar component, which we see over here. Maybe it's a little bit pixelated depending on how big you have your screen blown up here, but this is just like we've seen avatars in some of the other suites. This allows you to represent either a person or an entity or something like that with this little avatar. So over on the right-hand side, we see a couple of different versions of this. One that's using someone's initials, so just text. One that's using a couple of images, which you can also use. And you can even use some icons or a combination of all three in a single avatar. And these happen to be circular in the screenshot that I have here, but you can define if you want them to be square, rounded, etc. That's all a part of the avatar configuration option. So very easy to get up and running with this and start adding that into your application. Now we, as I mentioned, have a new dashboard application that you can take a look at for a sample application that we're calling the admin dashboard. So I'm sure you've seen a lot of these templates throughout the web, right? There's a ton out there that give you this nice little tile layout kind of view alongside with the drawer navigation, etc. That gives you some idea of some sort of dashboard where in this particular case you might be tracking the number of tasks or issues that you need to take care of either as a team or yourself. Of course, if you have to do 22 tasks in one single day, that might be crazy. So I'm assuming, it's probably more team related in this particular case. So what we're trying to do here, right, is give you yet another sample application that you can take a look at in order to understand how you can build applications using Kendo UI for jQuery, and also try to ensure that we are aligned with a lot of the type of applications that you're building today. So either you can learn from this in terms of how you can set up and architect an application, or maybe this can even be a jump start to your application development, for an app that you have today, right? You might have some requirements for a dashboard application that looks just like this. You can even use then the sample app to be able to just start your delivery. And who knows, maybe you can just wire up some of your own data and be able to feel good about the day and then have your application ready to go right off the gate. Now, we've covered this in some of the other suites as well, but I want to make sure that I cover this for anybody that is joining just for jQuery. We do have these theme rendering options that we've added across all of our themes. So the default theme, the Bootstrap theme, and the material theme for those of you using Sass. And we've also introduced these in the less base themes as well. So it's really the themes across the board. And specifically, any one of the components are found under the buttons, inputs, data inputs, or drop-down categories within our documentation and demos have had these rendering options added. Now, they are optional, so keep that in mind. You don't have to use them necessarily, but what these represent, so theme, color, fill mode, size, shape, and rounded, these are just additional ways to customize our components. So throughout R1, and of course also into R2 and going forward, we'll be introducing these into other components as well to make sure that for those that need to customize the components a little bit more, and maybe don't need to today, but might need to do so in the future, we're trying to actually make our themes a little bit easier to understand and simplifying things along the way. We're also trying to allow them to be a little bit more extensible so you can build on top of them. And then for folks looking to build design languages with our components, this will also kind of be in line with a lot of the requirements that might come from designers. And I know a lot of folks also are using our theme builder. So this allows us to potentially, extend and maybe even add some additional features into the theme builder that allows you to do even more customization of the themes through there. So this is the initial first step into making this across the entire library. The buttons, inputs, data inputs, and dropdowns, that's a lot of components already. For example, data inputs has our date picker as well as our data input and dropdowns. So you have all kinds of different dropdowns, and these end up building into our larger components. So, these foundational components just allow us to now be able to build into some of the more potentially advanced components that are built up of these component sets. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, so I might be rehashing this, there might be some breaking changes depending on how you've implemented the themes in the past and how much customization that you've done. So we do recommend some additional time for testing around that. However, a lot of our own internal testing, as well as applications like the one Kathryn mentioned that's highly customized and styled, we've seen that this is a fairly minimal impact. So hopefully that's the case for everybody, but our support team is ready and available to help with any issues that you might find through these rendering options. But I'm excited to see this be applied, of course, in jQuery as well, and continue to evolve the jQuery suite of components. And now we also have some updates to the grid. So now we can take a look at some of our heavy hitting components and everybody's favorite, the grid. One of the things that we did is you see a GIF of it over here, and I'm using the correct way to pronounce that, Kathryn. I'm just kidding. We don't want to start the flame war here, right? We've improved the drag and drop experience within the grid. So you can see now that you get this little indicator of, first of all, just some information about the data item that's being dragged, which that little template there you can actually customize so users are aware of what is being dragged. And we have a little bit of a better indicator as well of where within the list the data item is being dropped. So this is just, we've had drag and drop in the grid available for some time, but this is all about improving the user experience to just make it a little bit more intuitive based on feedback from folks like yourself. We've also updated the multi-column sorting. So we've had multi-column sorting for quite some time, and this might not show well in a demo even, so I'll just cover it here verbally. But essentially, what we've added now is the ability for you to exclusively do multi-column sorting when the control key is pressed. So what this means is that if you want to have the behavior of, well, if you want to sort on, let's say, 3 columns, the user holds in the control button and then clicks on the column headers, and that allows them to sort by those 3 columns. But what if they just want to revert and sort on a single column again? Well, previously you had to then unsort all the other columns that you didn't want to sort upon. But now with this feature, if this is enabled, which is an option, not a default, it will now unsort all the other columns and only sort the column that you click on. So it's a bit of a quality of life improvement for folks that expect that behavior. We know that depending on who you talk to, in fact, if you just chatted with the folks that are on camera right now, we might have 3 different opinions on how this should really work out of the box. So we added this in just as an option for folks that might have this as a part of the requirement. So it might seem very minor, but you know, things like this can save a lot of time for folks that expect that behavior, and maybe they have to do sorting across multiple columns multiple times a day, and those seconds eventually add up if you think about it. So a nice little improvement in the grid here. Next, we have some chart enhancements. So you have potentially seen this image as in the previous sections as well. But essentially what we did is we added and updated colors within the Kendo UI for jQuery charts to make them align a little bit more with the colors and make them a little bit more modern when it comes to the default, the material, and the Bootstrap themes. And now a little bit of a fun tidbit for everybody is that previously as well, when I think the limit was maybe 9 or 10 series, if you had more than that, the charts would actually recycle the color. So let's say you start with yellow as the first series and the color, and eventually you would get up to X number of series, it would be yellow again, which, that's just the out of the box behavior. You could of course customize the colors yourself. But what we've also done is ensure that that doesn't happen. So now you have way more colors out of the box as well. So if you want to bind 100 different series to a single chart, which I don't know what your users are trying to look at with 100 different series, but now you can also ensure that you don't have to do any manual calculations of colors yourself. Instead, that's all handled within the component. And as Alyssa,
when you first introduced it, there was like a bit of a, at least on my end, there was like a blip, and I was like, he's talking about the new chart, but I can't see the new chart. It was very frustrating. So I'm glad. I don't know if you all also saw the blip. It's fine. It's here. We can see it now. I actually, I have a question, Carl. Sure. Would you mind if we ran a quick poll? No, the poll gods are asking if we can.
Thank you so much.
Do it.
Yeah.
So
I'm so focused on just what I see here. So thank you for stepping in and helping me, Alyssa. I do appreciate it. Now this is a little bit small for me.
No worries.
Yeah, if you don't mind reading.
Yeah, I can read it. So how familiar are you with the Kendo UI kits for Figma? So I know we talked about it earlier. So there, I can't personally vote, but we'd like to hear your vote of either I know about them and use them, I know about them, plan to use them. We also have 2 others of I know about the kits but don't have a use case, and I didn't know about them until now.
Yeah,
and then we also have one more poll for jQuery. So whenever we finish this one, like if you have another break or if you want to do it back to back, whatever you're thinking, Carl. But that is where we're at in poll world.
Let's do them back to back while we're at it, because I get so excited about our features and all of our components that I will probably forget about it in just the pure sheer excitement of it all. So we can probably do them back to back. And for those of you that have been with us from this entire time, I know that you probably have already answered this, but since we do have a longer session today, right? I think some folks, if you're with us the entire time, are going to be with us 3 hours. Right? Is that how math works out, or is it just 2?
Is it 2 or 3? Wait, hang on.
Yeah, 3. That's how
Wait a minute.
works. Time flies when you're having fun with your friends, right? So
2.5, my friends.
we're simply just checking
Is it
in.
2.5?
It's 2.5.
I have to go write this out now. I don't.
Yeah.
This math seems.
Oh wait.
No, we
No,
have
maybe
it.
it is
We have it up until 1
it's just
o'clock.
2.
So you have been with us 2.5 hours. We have half an hour left for the folks that staying for view. Yeah.
Okay. And there are the results. Mostly, I didn't know about them, but there are quite. I think it's 4 or 5% of. I know about them and use them. So there's the. And then we're gonna go ahead and run the next one as well. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Boom, 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 boom. I don't know if it started yet. I'm looking, waiting, viewing current poll results.
Here we go.
The
jQuery, right? I ran the right poll.
What?
What best describes
you
your
ran
plans
it? Awesome,
for your-
yeah.
I ran it, yeah. What best describes your plans for your jQuery projects? You can select one or more of the following. Continue maintaining in jQuery.
Ooh, I don't think we've ever done a multi-select. This is fancy.
I actually really love watching the poll answers come through. Like, that feels like a lame thing to admit, but I think it's really fun. So you can choose continue maintaining, migrate or redevelop in Angular, React, or Vue, migrate or redevelop in Blazor, sunset those projects, or something else, something we didn't think of. And if it's something we didn't think of, you should totally tell us in the chat because I'm curious.
Or because, like, you know, jQuery is just cool and you want to use it.
Honestly, right now, I mean, not to like influence anybody, but I can see the numbers as they come in, and continue maintaining is in the lead.
Yeah, and that makes sense. That makes sense. Like I said, when we were joking about in the little framework, Flameware, jQuery is my favorite library. It's still you know, what I tend to go to when I need to create something real quick. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, look at that, 71%. Continue maintaining.
Yeah.
Huge.
So this is relevant. Alexander was asking how extensively is the jQuery suite used compared to something like the Angular suite? Which direction should I adapt for a beginner? And I mean, I mean, it's such a hot topic, and there's so many opinions out there. I really feel like there's so many really cool, like, beginner in Angular, beginner in React, beginner in Vue, like little demos or like tutorials that you can walk through. And I'd almost suggest taking an afternoon to try out jQuery, try out Angular. How does it feel? How does it fit for you? Because if you're not working with a team or a specific project in mind, then it's really just what works best for your brain, right? At that point, like, what are you most comfortable with? And that's why there's so many different flavors and frameworks out there, because we're all different, right? So it's something that you're gonna have to decide in your heart, Alexander. Because we can, you know, me and Kathryn and Carl can all duke it out for the differences between them, but at the end of the day, every dev is different and falls into a different camp. So I think try it out and see which one feels right for you. But it was a cool poll. I liked it.
Yeah, and thank you everybody for answering. I think this is also a good time just to mention, because I did see this question pop up, and I think it's just, you know, we hear all these different frameworks, you know, constantly, and if we're on Twitter, etc., you know, there's a lot of news around that. So folks are wondering, you know, what are we doing with the jQuery suite? And we are just going to continue to add features, add components. You know, we already have. You know, with this release, we've even taken the approach of revamping an existing component to be able to ensure that we can deliver something that's truly great for jQuery folks. And we have plans to do more of that throughout the year. And, you know, into Alyssa, you mentioned, well, scary to mention 2023. I had to talk about 2024 the other day. So, you know, I'm really living in the future. So,
you did?
Yeah.
Oh, my word.
It's scary.
Oh, my wordy gird.
Yeah. But of course, jQuery is included in those plans. So. But yeah, speaking of jQuery, we continue to have more stuff to chat about in jQuery. So the editor, in this particular case, we also added the ability to do undo and redo actions within the editor itself. So previously this was available, but we kind of relied on the browser's built-in undo redo functionality. And if you've ever dealt with that in larger text form, like a text area, you know that it's not necessarily, oh, I just wrote this sentence, let me undo that. Sometimes the entire block of text you've been writing goes away. So it's a little bit unpredictable. So now the editor itself has this kind of stack internally that allows you to undo or redo actions within the editor. So just makes for a little bit of quality of life update where you don't necessarily have to say, oh, whoop, there goes, you know, an entire section that I just spent some time on writing, and instead, you know, it's truly the same undo redo as before. All right, and then for the drawer, we actually added, and you can kind of see this in the animation that's happening here, but we added a knowledge base article that I wanted to highlight in the what's new, because it does get kind of intricate and goes into details around how to recreate an Amazon style menu. So what you're seeing over here is that when somebody clicks on getting started, that main menu that's now gray is actually allowing you to navigate back to this getting started overview and the thing that has the part of the image that has orange in it. So essentially the drawer now is being used as a way to navigate into a hierarchy, but it replaces the content that's in the menu previously. So then you can go, you know, n levels deep, and then you can potentially back out to be at the root element. So this is something that we've received a lot of feedback for actually in our feedback portal. So we added this functionality in to ensure that we can you know, cover any and all scenarios for the drawer component within jQuery. So if you're interested in that, we have a knowledge base article that shows off how to do this, and it's a lot of fun, of course, to be able to see something in the wild and then replicate it with our components. So it's a little bit, for me at least, a fun project to take a look at to see how you can use one of our components to tackle something like this. All right, and we also have some ColorPicker updates. So like in the other suites, we've updated the design of the ColorPicker. So this brings not just a little bit of a new UI, but also adds some additional valuable features, like, for example, switching from gradient to palette. You see that in the animation that's happening right now. Those two icons are being clicked, so that you have the gradient, and then you have what we call a color palette, which of course you can customize what options are available, what colors folks can choose from. We have the color preview, enabling you to compare old versus new colors. You can toggle between hex and RGB inputs. And then we also have a contrast tool that allows you to compare and contrast between two colors. Additionally, just like we talked about in the other suites, the panel bar also has been redesigned to just have some better distinction in terms of how parent and child items may look, and so it becomes a little bit more intuitive for what that hierarchy looks like. And we now use that chevron arrow, which I had to look up, and you know, it's very hard to Google icons and just say, what's the name for this? What's the official name? But I found it after a lot of effort that this chevron arrow versus what we had before, which was the filled-in triangle. And that just goes along with having a consistent look and feel with the components like the expansion panel, which has the chevron for the, you know, up triangle and down.
I'm imagining that, like, that search term of like pointing down arrow toggle open symbol. Like,
yeah. At one point
trying to find its name.
Greater than or less than symbol pointing up. What is that?
Pointing up. Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's when Google needs a hotline that you can call in to say, this is my human question. How do I tell the robot to put the answer?
Actually, it would be so funny. Like, if someone butchers a search so badly, if they just like had a pop-up that says, do you need help? Like, are you okay? You know, like,
just call us. Yeah.
I feel like they've gotten embarrassingly good at it though. Sometimes I will put things into a search bar that even I'm like, this is terrible. And then it's like, did you mean? And I'm like, I did. Yeah. I did mean.
It does pick up on that. And I consider myself a good Googler, right? Or a good searcher, I guess, to not exclude other search engines and to modify the way that I ask a question to make sure that, you know, fits with our robot overlords. But trying to Google what the name of an arrow is, or I think any icon, and trying to figure out what an official name is, that I think that's a hard problem to solve. That's like P equals NP. You know, like sure it probably we might be able to get that, but we're not sure if we can actually make Google be able to help us with figuring out just random symbols and what they're called. But yeah, so outside of that, we've now also done a lot of improvements to accessibility. So this is just really across the board to just kind of mention that what we did between R3 and R1, and I know that we almost always have something related to accessibility when we talk about our components, but we've done a lot of improvements, not only from ensuring that, of course, we continue to be compliant with Section 508 and WCAG 2.0, 2.1, as well as WAIA standard or WAI-ARIA standards. But we've done a lot of strengthening of our automated accessibility testing that we do as well. So a lot of things kind of behind the scenes that will help us not just make the components more accessible now, but of course continue to make them more accessible in the future, and even ensure that we don't necessarily have any regressions that pop up. So it's really exciting because the more that we can chat about accessibility, I think, as a part of our day-to-day, the better the web will become. And knowing that the Kendo UI for jQuery components are accessible out of the box, I think that's kind of a nice thing for folks to have to ensure that that we don't necessarily add any hassle to accessibility, and instead help you enhance it throughout your application. All right. So I'm looking at the time, and that's kind of when you see me looking over here, it's me checking the clock. So I was hoping I could jump into some demos, but we have so much to cover that I can't. I hit my allotted time for jQuery. However, everything that I covered here is highlighted in our demos. We also have the What's New page that links directly to those demos. And then you have the What's New blog post as well that has links to all this. So if you're a little bit bummed that we weren't jumping into code, just know that it's very easy to find those links after the fact. So we'll be able to, of course, ensure that you can take a look at those when you need to. So I know that I have roughly, I wanted to make sure that I had about 20 minutes for everything. So I know that it says 12:45 to 1 p.m. for Vue, but I wanted to make sure we had a little bit more time for the Vue folks on the call, because we do have a lot to cover there as well. So if you're just joining us, we've covered Angular, React, and jQuery. So if you did miss that, don't worry. Everything is going to be recorded. So it's being recorded as we speak. So it'll be up on our YouTube channel, and I'll have a link for that right at the end. But I'll just say that it's youtube.com/KendoUI-TV. So just add the TV at the end of Kendo UI, and you'll be good to go. But with that being said, let's jump into the Kendo UI for Vue components. So
if I can interrupt you real quick, I think we have a Vue poll. I think we have a Vue poll to run.
Oh, fantastic. So yeah, let's go ahead, and you are really the master of polls today, Kathryn, and I appreciate that. Yeah. So if we can launch the poll as we just kind of see the backdrop of everything that I'll be covering in the next 20 minutes. But let's see what that looks like.
So this one says, which best describes your Vue project? And you can select more than one. Business apps for clients, websites for clients, apps for an internal employee-facing audience, customer-facing apps, the primary product we offer, or customer-facing apps as part of a bigger product or service. So yes, let us know which ones apply for you. Let's see as the poll starts rolling in. Excited to see. Right now, we are 50-50 between websites for clients and apps for internal employees. Oh, there it goes.
Oh, but it took off.
It's funny how the votes, how the votes roll in. It's like slowly, and then everyone answers at once. So it's good. It's good stuff. Lots of apps still, though, for internal employee facing. Mm-hmm. That's cool.
So I think we still have some folks answering the question.
Wow, that's, I mean, like everything like had a vote. That's really interesting, the spread.
Yeah.
Because it's still very high for internal employee facing, but yeah.
That's a surprisingly even spread.
Yeah. It might be our most even poll of the day.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
But all right, let's see here. I'm just making sure I'm looking at
oh my word.
Sure. I know, right? So
how big is the Vue dev team? Oh my goodness.
Right? Absolutely crushed it with this release. So for those of you not familiar with Kendo UI for Vue, what we originally did, just to make sure that we could cover folks that needed Vue earlier, was that we initially wrapped around the Kendo UI for jQuery components for Vue. So some of you might say, oh, I've already been using the date range picker in Vue, for example. But these components are all new native, built from the ground up. We're slowly but surely taking out anything that it even has the mentioning of a wrapper in it. And yeah, this release jam-packed. So we have the editor, filter, gauges, toolbar, split button, drop-down button, menu, progress bar, loader, drawer, stepper, date range picker, text area, tooltip, and switch. And then of course also the rendering options that I've covered and the chart improvements. So I'm gonna just kind of step through this and try to keep this in the next 15 minutes. It might be difficult. So the editor, right? It's the editor component, essentially brings a lot of what you love and enjoy with word processing into the web. So you have the ability now for your users to be able to edit content, have images and tables, etc. And for you as a developer, the nice thing is that it's really just HTML under the table. So you can take that, save it somewhere, load it back in, and now you don't necessarily have to have your users passing along 8 different types of Word documents, you know, V3, V5 final, V6 final underscore draft, you know, all these different naming conventions we come up with, no longer, thanks to having the Vue editor.
I didn't think you could see my desktop.
I see all. Now we also added the filter component. So this image over here on the right-hand screen showcases the filter component tagged along with one of our data grids. So yes, these work hand in hand because the data tables, oftentimes you have a ton of data that you have in there, but the component also works by itself. And I kind of see this as a query builder, or like Alyssa mentioned when she mentioned this on the Angular side, you know, a regular expression kind of editor that can help users that don't necessarily want to become regex experts, because even as a developer, I'm not. I still just pick something up from Stack Overflow and I say, yes, this random number of symbols, I'm sure this will work out fine. So this really brings a more advanced filtering functionality and allows users to build up these kind of advanced expressions in a very intuitive way. And it works as a standalone component, and of course also integrates with our existing Vue components. We also added the gauges. So we have the linear gauge, the circular gauge, and the radial gauge, which you can see from left to right. This, of course, you have the customization options, you have templates, you can control the color, they can be animated, there's a ton that goes into it. So having the gauges available, we added the charts in the last release, so now we kind of have all this data visualization available to us as Vue developers. And we added the Vue toolbar, which, I picked the pixeliest picture I had, I guess. I can just see those raw pixels right now. But the toolbar component actually kind of, you know, takes away a lot of the complexity and the when it comes to building toolbars, you know, and grouping some components together. What should be a dropdown? What should be a collection of buttons, and making it responsive as well. And actually is used by our editor as a way to be able to display all of our tools. So we offer that not just as a part of our editor component, but also as its own standalone component for folks that want to create this kind of navigation or contextual, you know, action bar, however you want to refer to it as, on top of any one of your existing UI elements. We have the split button, which kind of is related to the toolbar because you can add a split button into the toolbar. But the way this works is that you have this split between the text and the icon, or the combination of that, with a little arrow on the right-hand side that when you drop down, when you click on it, it gives you a drop down with an additional list of options that you can select from. You also have the drop-down button, which does a very similar thing. However, the main difference is that you don't have that split. So it looks like a regular button without that little icon pointing downwards. And when a user clicks on the button, this additional list pops up. So similar kind of user experience, but it just depends on what your preference is for that split versus just a regular button. And we have the menu, which it continues to add the things that are popping up and providing us with options. So the menu component, right, is a multi-level navigational element. You can use it on its own, and we can see kind of an unstyled-ish version of this, right, where we just have some text, maybe not necessarily clear, you know, that everything's an individual button, but you can of course tweak that and make that look and feel like the menu that you want. And also this can even be added as a context menu. So if you right click on something, you can now work with our menu in order to be able to create a similar experience to what you might find on desktop applications. And we have the progress bar, which just as we're progressing along with this webinar, allows you to be able to show the progress happening of a particular task. So you have full control over how to update the value, and if it animates from left to right or right to left, you can, you have full control over this, right? So it can be a time process, it can be something that you manually update the value, but the progress bar just has, the maximum and the current value, and then you can it automatically updates depending on how those values are being updated behind the scenes. We have the loader component, which we have a couple of different versions of here on the right-hand side. And what the loader allows you to do is really give an animated indicator of an ongoing process. So while the progress bar might be there to show you, the installation status, right, which famously in Windows goes up to 95% in the first minute and then sits there for 20 minutes. But the animated indicator that we have with the loader just allows you to make your application pop a little bit. And if you have something that's happening under the hood, a user, for example, says load data, and that data is a large data set, and you want to still give them the idea that something is going on so they're just not spam clicking the button, the loading indicator is great to be able to just add in anywhere within your application. We also have the drawer, so we can see it over here, right? It's a pretty common UI and user experience that we have nowadays, right? So you have the ability for it to be permanently displayed. It can also be shrunk down, and we can have different modes. You can have large and mini, which just essentially just shows the icons, and that can be either customized, of course, from the development perspective, or you can even give some configuration options to your users so they can customize their favorite way of viewing the drawer. We have the stepper component, which allows you to visualize the progress of any sort of process where you have chronological steps. So I think all of us have seen this as a part of a checkout process, right? If you have a big form, instead of having multiple scrolls having to happen for from top to bottom in order to be able to fill out a form, it's been proven through research that the smaller you can make the form and just including these steps, the more people will actually fill it out. So if you're looking to have something that needs to be filled out and people are ejecting out, a stepper is really a great way to be able to improve the completeness metric, whatever you want to call it, of people stepping through. And of course, you have full control over what's being displayed at each individual step. You can also have a strict check of it needs to go from left to right. You can skip items if you want to. It's 100% up to how you want to configure it to make sure the users follow through and apply whatever information they need at each individual step. We have the date range picker as well, which allows you to select the start and end date using these two side-by-side calendars. It just gives you a quick way to be able to do a full selection of multiple dates. And of course, even you can navigate through, and if you want to be able to have a date that starts at the beginning of Q1 and ends at Q3, you can just use the navigation elements on the left and right-hand side to be able to go even further into the future or further back in time in the past as well. We added a text area component, and this is just to ensure that we have the same look and feel across all of the components available out of Vue. So the text area just gives the same consistent look and feel for the themes that you're using on the Kendo UI side for a text area that just has, like we have here, a little bit more information to be added in than an input, but not necessarily something that needs a full-blown editor to be able to control the content. We also added the tooltip component, which you can see here. That's actually applied to one of the chart elements, but the tooltip can be applied to any HTML element across your application, whether it's something you created or something that's integrated with the Kendo UI components as well. And this can be displayed on hover, focus, or click. That's 100% up to how you want to configure it. We also added the switch component, so this on and off switch, or true, false, or whatever kind of content you want to add in there that indicates one value or the other. And you can, of course, have a Boolean under the hood to control if it's true or false, but then display the information that you want to have there for on and off, and have that be completely customized as well. So gives your users whatever the most intuitive terminology they need in order to understand what you're turning on and off. And then, of course, from a development perspective, you can have an underlying data structure that makes sense to you. Now we're going on to, and I'm just making sure that I have the time, and yes, we are gonna wrap up right on time, folks. So we have the new rendering options that I covered in jQuery, but for those of you that are here just for Vue, we did update the available options that we have in the buttons, inputs, state inputs, and dropdown packages. Specifically, these options are theme color, fill mode, size, shape, and rounded. Without diving into what each individual one of these options do, it's our attempt to ensure that our Vue components can continue to not only, of course, work for today's design, but also in the future. So for those of you that are building design languages on top of the components, or just have intricate design requirements, or maybe you just want all your buttons to be rounded instead of square, and you might have a strong opinion on just how rounded they are. That's where these options come into play. So they are optional. You don't necessarily have to take advantage of them if you don't want to, but we're going to not only, of course, we have the components that we're talking about today, but we're going to continue to add this into other components down the road. So you'll see more updates about this throughout the year. And now I will recommend that you do some additional testing. Even though we've done a lot of testing ourselves, we know that whenever we're introducing something like this, there could be some breaking changes. So we recommend that you just leave a little bit of extra room for testing to make sure that these options that you can either work around any potential issues that pop up, or work with our support team, and they'll be able to help you get around any issues that you might encounter. So we'll see more of this throughout the year, but very excited for what these theme rendering options will give us. And now the last improvement that we have to cover are the chart improvements. So specifically, what we've done here, as I mentioned on the jQuery side as well, is that we have expanded the number of colors available out of the box. So if you have 10, 20, 30 different series that you add into a chart, we ensure that you're not going to have any repeat colors, which actually could happen. And we've also updated the colors. You can see your old versus the new. We've updated the out-of-the-box colors just to make sure that they fit with our default Bootstrap and Material themes a little bit better. So for those of you that don't really care about the colors, you'll just get a nice update to the colors out of the box. And for those that want to retain your old colors, if you already explicitly set the colors, you don't have to worry. And then, of course, we have a documentation article that covers how you can go back to the old colors if that's something that shows up as either a bug from your visual regression testing, or if you just prefer the old colors. So that kind of, I know that I have a slide here for demos, but we're honestly right up on time. We have about 4 minutes or so left. So what I'm just going to do is mention that this is a great link to keep in mind for anything related to Kendo UI. So just telerik.com/Kendo-UI, that brings you to the main Kendo UI hub page. And from there, you can check out each of the individual products that we covered today. So jQuery, Angular, React, and Vue. And you can also, of course, jump into the what's new content, the roadmap. You can jump into the demos for each of the individual products you're interested in. That's a great link to keep handy. And we also have our blog. So just telerik.com/blogs. You'll be able to find all of the what's new content for everything we covered today. So that includes all of the content for Angular, React, and Vue, and jQuery, and then also links to demos, documentation articles, etc. We're constantly blogging, so I definitely recommend keeping this bookmark and checking in once in a while. We cover everything from desktop development to mobile development, web development, AR and VR sometimes, right? Really, if it's related to development, it is covered on the blog. So definitely recommend that you check that out. And I think that is where we're going to end it today, folks. So if you joined late, I did see there are some people that are saying, oh, I just joined like right at the end here. Sorry we missed you. But everything that we talked about today, it has been recorded as well and will be up on YouTube. Again, it's at youtube.com/KendoUI TV. So just add the TV at the end of the Kendo UI and you'll be able to catch that. But that's everything that we have for now. Thank you everybody for joining. Also a special shout out to everybody that's been helping answering questions behind the scenes. Folks have been so into this webinar. There's just been so many questions that have been asked. So I appreciate everybody helping us out behind the scenes as well. And for now, that's what we have to cover, but we will see you, of course, when R2 2022 happens. So until then, folks, enjoy, and we'll see you around. Bye for now.